Get your notes out because this could be extremely life changing for you. So we all have like really great ideas, and we all want to start like really amazing businesses. But you all would agree with me that starting a business is full of a lot of uncertainties, right? You don't know. So you get $100,000 loan, you really don't know what you don't know. And so one of the things that you're going to learn is how to know what you don't know. So it's really critical that you follow this. Now, I'll be giving a lot of tools. I'll be sharing a lot of tools. The goal is to make sure that when we all leave here, we can go back and investigate those tools and use it, right? So initially, what I'd even planned was if you had your laptops, then we could actually dive into the tools as well, okay? So please make sure that you're taking notes, Okay, thank you. So please make sure that you're taking notes and you understand. So my talk is going to be divided into two pieces. One is helping you sort of understand what AI is and what it's here to do. And then two is actually diving into some of the things that Shelley spoke about. She spoke about having a business plan, right? And, like the first time I had set up, have a business plan, it was kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and just sort of write things out and all that kind of stuff. But I can already throw out a tool that can help you with your business plan right now. The tool is called Life Plan. Life Plan would automatically help you create and structure your business plan. So rather than having to, when I had the challenge of setting up my business plan, I just used Life Plan. It's $15, and you can have your business plan in 2 hours. Okay. All right. So just in case you were thinking, another thing I wanted you to really pay attention to is, okay, what are your current challenges today? I have a few notes. I wanted you to jot down what your current issues are today. What's that thing that is preventing you from setting up your business or establishing, your business? Or if you already have a business, what are your current challenges today? I've given you some white papers so that you can actually write people unlock how to use the power of AI. One of the reasons why, and Allegra sort of touched on it, one of the reasons why I'm here today is because, I think that as a community, as minorities, we're going to lose out, hugely, if there's any word like that, on this train, because we're still trying to even catch up to technology just in general, right? Understanding how to use technology is still a problem. Now, every state is required to sort of file, some paperwork around layoffs. And so, in the coming months, we're going to be seeing a lot of layoffs. And this is because AI is going to actively replace a lot of jobs. And so if you're not thinking about a business, you should be thinking about it. If you had a job, you should be, trying to find out how AI can help what you're doing. And I'll teach you how to recognize that. So that you do not get laid off, okay? Really, really important, So I was with my my PhD advisor, and we're having this discussion, and a bunch of PhDs that are actually out still looking for jobs, today. So it's really critical that you know that, and this is also why you need to invest in educating yourself around this topic. I cannot overemphasize it, and I'll tell you why. So, today, it doesn't matter what business that you own, all organizations have at least 60% operational inefficiencies, and so you spend a lot of money, hiring people, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. You keep burning money and stuff like that. So you have your business plan, you have all that kind of stuff, but then you have to invest money in hiring people. They are not truly who they say they are, things of that nature. And so we see that, all across the board, right? So 61% of CEOs will agree that the only way to improve that is by, innovation, right? So over the years, before AI, the goal would be, okay, how do I hire the right set of people, a right set of talent, but also if we're going to do something that would help us reduce our operational inefficiencies, we need infrastructure, we need all of these different things to be able to make it happen. To hire, just one talent that would do that is, hundreds of thousands, right? And so really, really difficult to do. And so innovation is going to basically help to reduce those inefficiencies. And one of the ways that it's going to do it is with what? AI, okay? And so here's the opportunity in this space. We are going to have at least $190 billion, pumped into AI by 2025. That's really, really close. And essentially, AI is going to create 97 million new jobs. And so if you are not really getting yourself up to speed with it, then you might you lose your job, or you're not able to shift into new opportunities. And as I was talking about organizational inefficiencies, AI technology has the potential to increase labor productivity by 40%. And so, though a lot of people are scared about losing their jobs, what's really going to happen is that we're going to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so it's really, really critical, because now data is going to track everything that everyone is doing. And once you can track that, then you can track areas where those organizational inefficiencies are, and you can actually improve them. Everybody following me thus far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Here's the risk. I already spoke about it. If you have a job that is repetitive, you should start considering a new job, right? Why? Because, essentially anything that is repetitive then can be replaced by AI, right? And I'll explain why. But it's actually worse off. 76% of Americans that, use automation today would be, essentially there will be zero opportunity, or very, very high risk, not high risk, I won't call it high risk, but it would be, the chances of getting a job for even women would increase, because there are statistics that show that a bunch of jobs that women specifically do are repeatable. And so all of that can be very easily replaced by AI. And so it's really, really critical that you start identifying, things that you do at a very repetitive pattern and what could replace that. And what you want to do is get on top of it, and I'll tell you how you can go about it. So here's what Henry Ford says. Henry Ford's assembly line demonstrated that machines don't replace people. Rather, they are replaced by other people who know how to work with the machines. So there's no reason for us to be afraid. We're believers, we trust Jesus. There's no reason for us to be afraid. Why? Because now all we need to do is take authority over the machines. And that's what it is, and that's what AI is. Don't feel intimidated by the concept. Embrace the concept, because it's not really difficult to understand. So, the way that I like to explain AI to people is, you have repetitive tasks. Sorry, I need to go next to the mic. And then you have intelligent tasks, right? So everything that we can do today's, when you talk about repetitive tasks, let's take, for example, everybody has food in front of them, right? You all have food in front of you. Okay, so which means that, at every single event that needs to serve food, there needs to be someone who brings the food in front of you, or you need to go grab the food yourself, right? That happens at every single event that would, give out what? Food. That is a what? Repetitive task. So how can AI replace that? Let's talk about automation first, then we'll talk about AI after. So automation means, okay, now, essentially, I can have a robot that stands right there, and every time someone approaches it, it serves the person food. Let's just think about that for a second. You have a robot standing out there, and serving people food. Now, that is automation, right? How is the robot intelligent enough to know there's someone in front of, him, serve him food? That is what AI does. The robot is now able to recognize that there's someone in front, which is what we call object detection or image detection, right? And it should be able to recognize that you stretch out your arms, which means there needs to be some, algorithm that understands that a hand is being stretched out, and then it needs to be able to hand the food and place it in their arms. And that is what I call intelligent task. Why? Because essentially it's not just out there trying to serve food, but it's actually able to recognize there's someone in front of it. Everybody following me? Yes. Are you guys still with me? I want to make sure you don't miss anything that I'm saying. And so that is what AI is. Repetitive task might not really give you that much intelligence, because essentially there might not be someone in front. It will try to serve something and there's nobody in front of it. It's just repetitive, right? But intelligence is I'm able to recognize there's someone in front of me and I'm able to what? Serve the person food. Why? Because, the person might be tall, might be short. The hands might be this way, might be that way. How are you able to do that? And so there's this algorithm on the back end that is able to walk through multiple pictures, understand how people stretch their hands, and it's able to intelligently, right, say, hey, there's someone in front of me, here's their food. There you go. So I also like to compare this automation and intelligence in such a way. I want to help you guys understand what's really, really happening. So who is familiar with data analysis? Anybody familiar with what data analysis is? So, well, a little bit. Okay. So data analysis means I gather information, I put that information in an Excel spreadsheet, maybe information about my customers or information about X, Y, Z. I gather all that information, but what I want to be able to do is apply, some analysis to understand maybe the trend, to understand maybe, customer behavior or things of that nature. So we already gathered data today. If you're here at this event, it's because you probably had to register, unless you came through the back door, right? I'm just kidding. But, you had to register, right? And while you were registering, there was certain information that was probably gathered, right? So think about it this way. Say Allegra was hosting an event and people had to register, right? And she was able to get maybe 2 million people to register. Let's just take that hypothetically. And she wasn't only able to get 2 million people to register, but she also gathered information around their location. She gathered information, maybe she got their address, she got their email, right? And so she has all of that information. She could do analysis on it, right? And she could say, well, it appears like based on the data that I see, this million people, there is 500,000 people coming from New Jersey. So my next conference, guess where I'm going to do it? in New Jersey because it has, a lot more people. It's going to make it more convenient for them to be there. Maybe they could invite their friends to come and X, Y, and Z. So that's data analysis. Everybody following me? Because ideally, you cannot basically sift through 1 million records to try to understand that. So data analysis is, I'm going to do it in Excel or do it somewhere, and it's going to help me to really be able to break that down. When you talk about your customers and getting customers and knowing your customers, same approach, right? So that's data analysis. But that is just one step. AI now helps you to be able to actually do, so for example, forecast on, okay, it looks like we have 500 people in New Jersey today. What could we have next year? And so AI would then say, hey, look, what did they have this year? What did they have the previous year? What did they have, and take 5 years, and then it will do what's called forecasting. That is what intelligent. It's not just saying, hey, so say we had 200 people this, year. Next year we had 500 people. Next year we had 1,000 people. It will tell you how many people you're gonna have by, in 2030, right? And stuff like that. That is what intelligent, and that's what AI does. So I have this little picture, right? And initially you'd have we had these robots that essentially, crawl around, do certain activities. But as you see, as it increases, by the year, you see it's advancing and begin to look like a human being, right? And so essentially this is the evolution, of AI. AI is sort of moving to a place where you'll be hearing this frequently used terminology called AGI. Please write that down, AGI, and AGI is artificial general intelligence. And that's the idea that, as we evolve, these systems are going to be able to do essentially what a human being can do. That's the idea. Does that make sense? So the first level of AI is ANI, which is artificial narrow intelligence, which are just basic tasks. It specializes in one area and tries to solve one problem. Then we move from ANI into the next stage, which is what? AGI, which is now the computer can actually be as smart as a human being. So think about the neurons in our brain and the way that we think. And if you've used ChatGPT here before, anybody used ChatGPT here before? Okay, that's a really great tool, by the way. And so, basically these systems now are able to really, you can interact with it like you were interacting with a human being, and get responses and things of that nature. And then from there, we're going to move into what? ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, which is where people are really, really scared about, which means that now these systems are actually going to be very conscious, right? So, think about this system as a human being now responding to things, and this is when we foresee that, these machines are going to be a lot smarter than human beings. In many ways, they're doing that right now. But, if you talk to, people that have specialized fields, you would see the difference between what the machine is saying and, what a human being is saying. So the idea that we move to ASI is that at that point in time, the machines will be able to actually, do a better job than a human being will. And that is scary to think about. And so how can AI be useful for you today? If you want to go into, maybe being able to predict likely categories, like we just described with Allegra and Conference, being able to predict likely categories, you could use AI. If you want to be able to predict numerical values, you could use AI. If you want to determine important attributes, within your organization, you could use AI. If you wanted to identify unusual issues, you could use AI. And if you wanted to identify most important things within your organizational structure, you could use AI. And I'm going to go into practical ways of doing it. So you guys have your issues written in your notes. Everybody has their issues written in their note. I want to get someone share, some of the, like your biggest problem today, the biggest hindrance to starting or to doing the work that you do today. Anybody willing to share that? Oh, okay, I got 3 people. Okay. Marketing. Oh, I prepared for you, actually. So good.
So that was mine too. I said the whole package, the team, as far as marketing, all of that included. So.
Excellent. Okay, good. It looks like a lot of people have a marketing problem. My focus is really going to be on marketing today.
It would have been funding, marketing.
Yep.
Funding and marketing. Okay, good. All right. So what problems will AI solve for you? One, efficiency. So if there are ways that you feel like you've been inefficient today, like say, for example, you're trying to schedule a post and you don't know how to schedule a post, here you go, Metricool, write it down, Metricool, good tool to use to schedule your Metricool, metricool.com. If you want to create posts, then you use ChatGPT to create your post. But then you use Canva to do the design. And if you want to really get creative about it, you hire a marketing person for 2 hours, 2 hours literally, and pick out the template of your designs from Canva and have the marketing person create templates. And then there are ways that you can automate the creation of posts on Canva so you can have posts for like 50, 60 days. You take that post, you get the content for it from ChatGPT, and you throw that right back into Metricool. And you have posts for 60 days you don't have to touch.
Excuse me, would you repeat the cycle, please, once again? Are you saying?
So,
it's hard to hear you back.
yeah. Oh.
So it's
Is that better?
Metricool.
Metricool. So Metricool. Metricool. So you use Metricool for automatic posting of content on your social media platform. And you use Canva for your designs.
Yes.
So Canva, basically has these templates. And you just want to get creative about spending some time identifying what templates can work for you over a period of time. You want to use ChatGPT to generate the content, but you want to go back to Canva and automate the process of creating the design. And so Canva has, this unique ability where you can actually post content and it will automatically update Canva with all of the content on your design. Are you guys following me? And so ChatGPT has generated your content. Canva has now created your design. And so literally you are on full automation as you drop that content into Metricool for 60 days. Everybody following me thus far? We do it today.
Could you mention again about hiring that marketing person? What are you hiring them for? To pick out your templates?
Excellent.
Okay.
So you pick out your template yourself,
Okay.
but you want it to be excellent, right? You don't want to compromise quality. And so you hire a marketing person to look through your template and say, hey, look, this is going to be something I want to do over 60 days. All I need you to do is to make sure that this is templated out in such a format that I can use it multiple times. You hire them once, you don't need them again.
Okay.
Everybody following?
Yes. And then could you go over, you said once you did that, then you said you go, what was the step? Go back to Canva, go back to ChatGPT, and then Metricool.
So now you have the design.
Yes.
The design has been vetted. He might come back and say, hey, you need to work on your color psychology. Who are you trying to sell it to? It tells you all of that. Oh no, make it blue, make it red, white, green, whatever, right? It does that. And so once that's done, you can actually automate the creation of your content that you generated from ChatGPT in Canva. So Canva has this unique ability to take 60 or 70 contents and directly update it on the design. And so now you are, exactly. And so now you have 60 days worth of content that you don't have to touch. And then you update that on Metrico, and then you have that set up. So,
Everybody's asking for the recordings already.
yeah, trust me.
You gotta hear it like 3 times.
Trust me. He who fails to plan, plans to fail. And so, I believe very, very strongly in when you're doing a business, you need to test it. I'm a strong believer in it. I'm a strong believer in don't go for a loan until you have tested your idea. Because how do you know it's going to work? I believe in God too, right? Watch and pray. So watch, you have your eyes out, and you're praying at the same time.
Faith without works.
Faith without works is also dead. So heavy believer in that. So I challenge you to say, what problem are you trying to solve? See, I'm going to walk you through literally you can have your business plan by the end of this conversation,
Come on.
right? What problem are you trying to solve? You've written the issues that you have down. What unique problem are you trying to solve? You're a caterer or you do, whatever service you provide. What unique problem are you trying to solve? You need to understand that. It needs to be very, very clear. If you don't understand it, AI can help you understand it. So it's just crazy. It's like a feedback loop. So what problem are you trying to solve? Can someone tell me what problem they're trying to solve? Okay.
So women 40 years of age and over, longevity, so that they can just have their activities of daily living for as long as they need it.
Excellent.
So that's
Excellent.
my goal.
Excellent. So that is her problem. That's a fantastic problem, by the way. You need to understand the problem. You need to understand who it is that you're trying to, who's your TAM, right? Your total addressable market. Who's your target addressable market? And AI can also help you to understand that. You need to understand the problem you're trying to solve, and it needs to be a very unique problem, and it needs to be at least very difficult for someone else to solve. Very, very critical. So even if you have some, you want to own a consulting business, what is unique about your consulting business? What makes it different? What is the unfair advantage that you have? Like, for example, I have access to, ex CEOs, that I know the general public doesn't really have access to. And so that gives me what? An unfair what? Advantage. I guess you know what I'm saying? So in that line of business, what is your unfair advantage? Right? What is your unfair advantage? What would make it difficult for someone else to do that? Because of the kind of skill sets that you bring to the table. Because of the people that you know. Because of the access to the resources. And if you don't have an unfair advantage, you need to start figuring out what is it that gives me that edge. So you've identified that. Are you selling a product? Or are you selling a service? Everybody following me? So she wants to, help, people within a specific age to live longer. Is it a product? Is it, some type of supplement? Or is it a service? Is it some type of hosting events that help, do health, blah, blah, blah. You want to know that. It's a service?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm adding products, but right now it's a service.
Excellent. So These are ways that you can uniquely differentiate yourself from others. Are you differentiating yourself with your branding and strategy? Or are you differentiating yourself through your pricing? Are you differentiating yourself through quality? Or are you differentiating yourself through your product features?
Oh, you can mind?
Yeah, you could go ahead.
I mean, the brand and strategy, also the quality is very important.
Okay.
I know price is there too, but my brand and then my quality, because it's who I am, and I represent my brand. And the quality is also what represents me too.
Exactly. So you want to compare your quality to other qualities that exist out there. And how are you improving, that, against your competition? So these are some 5 ways of delivering product differentiation. 1, make sure you offer world-class customer service. I always suggest to people, when you start out, give people free trial. Like say, why? Because if you have 2 people, basically buy your service or get your service free, then essentially you have like customer recommendations that could go towards actually getting paid customers. Everybody following what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when I started off, I knew that like if I had access to people's data, they would not want to leave me.
Yes.
So I sold free up front because I knew once I have their data, then it becomes really, really hard. So what's that thing that keeps people coming to you such that they find you irresistible or find it difficult to leave you? It's really, really critical you understand that now. Why would someone bring their car to your detailing shop rather than take it elsewhere? What makes them keep coming? What's that? You need to identify that. And those are not difficult to identify, by the way. ChatGPT can help you.
So what would I say? Hi, ChatGPT. What makes me different? Or tell me.
Exactly. So you say, I ChatGPT, I am a detailing company. I do X, Y, Z. There are others that do this, this, and this. How can I differentiate myself from them?
So you need to know what to tell ChatGPT.
You need to become a prompt engineer. Yes.
Prompt engineers.
And the only way you become a prompt engineer is by practice.
Yeah.
A lot of people want it fed to them, but I always say practice. I've had several conversations with ChatGPT. The more you have conversations, the more you explore the possibilities that it can actually offer you. But if you don't try it, you would not know. You need to understand the pain of your customer, what keeps them up at night. I do not go into any business that does not have a pain level 10.
Say that again.
I would not go into any business that does not have a pain level 10. Because that's the only way that I can actually make a sale. So a lot of the conversations I have, I leave the conversation, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes after, they're asking, when can I get it? Everybody following me?
Yes.
And you can ask ChatGPT that as well. Just saying. What are areas within my business that has a pain level 10? And if it doesn't, then switch your strategy up. Use effective pricing strategy and make sure you offer plenty of flexibilities. So for example, like I'm a big fan of having a variety of offers. So you have these high-end clients, you have, people that cannot basically afford to pay a lot. So I have different brackets that fit into different categories of buyers, you know. So the question for anyone who is buying from you becomes, oh, let's say they asked you, you know, how can you help solve X problem? Well, there are various ways. I have this package for this and this package for that. And you have various packages that fit into various demographics and various personas of buyers. Does that make sense? So like I said earlier, one, choose something that is difficult. Select something that you are really passionate about and love working on what you're doing. And if you do this, you will succeed. There's no two ways around it. So she spoke about the business plan. The way that I, perceive it is more as a business model canvas. So if you have a business, there are different things you need to take into consideration. One is, who are your key partners? What are the key activities that are involved within the business? These are the things that help you to create a better business plan. What are the key resources that you need to be able to accomplish your goal? What's your value proposition? How do you intend to, get your customers? What are the channels to which you'd use to get your customer? What customer segment are you looking for? What cost structure do you have? What revenues, how do you bring in revenue into the business? So, to be able to answer these questions, here are the questions that you need to answer them, right? So for key partners, who are your key partners? If you have suppliers, who are the key suppliers? What resources do you need to be able to acquire those partners, right? What key activities do these partners perform? Because you want to be able to, hit them really, really hard. I'll give you an example. So I read a book about negotiation, called Never Split the Difference. It's a really good book if you have the, Never Split the Difference.
Split.
Yeah, Never Split the Difference. This is a book on negotiation, right? I wanted to be able to, to go into meetings and just negotiate. And so, I read the book, and essentially it takes me like maybe a week to digest books that I read. So I read it first, and then I end up reading it like 10 times. And so basically I was like, hey, ChatGPT, I just read a book by Chris Voss called Never Split the Difference. I'm trying to reach out to, a professor that I have interest in working with. And here are the few things I would like to be able to, and I want to meet with him. Create a short letter, a message to Professor X using Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. I sent the email like 4:30, I got a call. So he didn't even respond to my mail. He actually gave me a call and said, hey, look, can we talk? Right? So getting business opportunities isn't just about, it's about everything. Let me just put it that way. The way you message things, the way the way you respond to things, communication is really, really critical in landing a business. And so ChatGPT, for example, can help you to create those structures and help you, sort of sequence out how you could get the word out. Understand your key activities. Understand the resources that you need to be able to accomplish those key activities. So we go into them. So for example, customer segments, right? There's a tool called Bestie. It's an AI tool. And basically this AI tool can help you, right, to create like surveys that help you to understand customer behavior, right? So if you are not looking into who your customer is, you want to understand better about what their behaviors are, their habits are, what the potentials are, X, Y, and Z, try Bestie. Bestie is an AI tool that helps you to do it. If you want to create this survey form, so for example, what I'll do, I'll give you guys an example. So what I'll do is, let's say I wanted to sell something, a service or a product. Let's say I wanted to sell a product. I would go on Instagram and I would create a survey. And I would say, hey, look, I'm looking to sell product X, or I'm looking to sell service X. Or I might not even say that. I might say, are you struggling with X, Y, and Z? Fill out these details and I'll send you a short newsletter on how you can overcome X. All right, so I fill out the survey with SurveyMonkey, right? I create my design with what? Canva. And I boost my post. And I spend $20. Let's just say, hypothetically, I spend $20. So the goal is to see what the interest of people are in the service that I'm selling. Right? You can instantly tell whether people are interested or disinterested. If they are, then you get people signing up. If they are not, then they don't sign up. You could even have multiple questions. So what are some of your challenges in this and challenges in that, so that you can actually drill down to your customer's interest very, very uniquely and specifically. You may choose not to pick that approach. You might say, well, how about I use a social media listener? And there are a couple of social media listeners out there like brandwatch.com or Sprout Social. And so what it does is it goes through different people's pages and tries to pick out their interest. So I'm not necessarily putting out as a survey. If you want to do it like me, I would do both. And I would say, hey, look, I'm going to listen. But now that I've listened, I will then create a survey around what I listened. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So social media listening, you're able to pick, okay, what hashtags are people visiting the most? What kind of pages are people visiting the most? Things of that nature. You could also do customer interviews for your customer segments piece. So you could basically depending on what you're doing, you could identify, people, and a good tool that you could use for that is Seamless AI, seamless.ai. What does Seamless do? Seamless allows you to search for people within a specific industry. It gives you their phone number. It's not on there. You have to type it out. So it's SEEMLESS.ai. So Seamless AI allows you to be able to go on this portal, and you can basically enter what category of people you're trying to find based on their job titles and things of that nature. And what it will do is it will pull their emails and it will pull their numbers. Yes. Yeah. So all my contacts for my podcast and everything, I pull them from Seamless AI. I just have someone send emails and they register through the calendar and I'm done.
My life just got used to
So you can use this, I'm sorry, Dr. Iyanu.
Yeah.
So you can use this to start building your customer list.
Exactly.
Or do like a lead generation.
You can use it to start building your customer list. There's some challenges there. The challenge there is that if you were sending out multiple emails at once, there's a challenge with MailChimp. MailChimp does not allow you to send out multiple emails. There are other tools that could be used, but if you're just trying to build one-on-one relationship and stuff, where you send it one by one, you could use that. Or you could use alternative tools that allow you to send multiple, though they're slightly expensive.
Are there any other ones?
I would suggest you use MailChimp or HubSpot. HubSpot is free. They do have upgrades that you could take advantage of, but I would suggest you use either MailChimp or HubSpot.
Sir, we didn't quite hear you. It's hot or hot?
Hub. Yeah.
H-O-B.
H-U-B.
H-U-B.
Spots.
Keep
Yeah.
seeing that.
Yeah. They have a free account. There's a tool, I don't remember it very clearly, that allows you actually to have access to these resources as a small business for free for a specific period of time. like 2 years or something like that. I don't remember. When I do remember it, I'll bring it up. So, customer interviews, really, really great as well. And once you're in the customer interviews, right, you, let's say, set up something on Zoom. Let's assume you're having a conversation on Zoom, right? You know, you're going into the conversation, you're so nervous, you don't really know what to do, it's your first conversation, you're scared, blah, blah, blah. Here's what you do. You install a tool on Zoom called Otter AI, OTTER.ai. What does this tool do? It summarizes your conversation during the call. It summarizes your conversation and tells you sort of what the expected outcome of that conversation was versus what you thought. And so now you can go back into other conversations and then learn how to really position yourself properly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody following?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure everybody's on. Everybody with me? Nobody's lost? Okay, good. So I was speaking about customer segment, right? But it's important to understand, when you think about your customer segment, it's important to understand who your customer is. And here are the ways that you can understand who your customer is, right? One, you have to define the trait of your ideal customer. So essentially, let's take your example. You said your customer has their ages between what? 40 and older. So let's say our customer segment is 40 and what? And older. If she's on Instagram, then she needs to know what age limit, of her customer segment is on Instagram. Everybody following me?
Yeah.
So let's say it was 40 and older, 40 to what? 40 to 65 is what I've typically heard, that 40 to 60.
Most of my clients are 40.
Exactly. So she would not push her 70, 80 customers on Instagram. She may have to look for a meetup in the area. So there's a tool called Meetup, meetup.com. There's also your economic development group within your county. Every county has their economic development group, and they love hosting events. Those guys just love hosting events, and I love going to the events, because I get to sell myself, there, right? So identify which one is in your area and make sure you go for the events and make sure you represent yourself well.
Yes.
So once you identify their trait, you segment your customer profile, and essentially I'll show you an example of that, and all of this, to be honest with you, can also be done with what? ChatGPT.
Tatiana, how do they get to ChatGPT? Somebody may not know.
Oh, okay. So if you go on Google and you type Chat OpenAI. Chat OpenAI, you'd see the first link you'd see should have, the URL as chat.openai, something like that. You click that and you sign up. It's very, very critical that you sign up, like today.
Yes.
So, are you guys still with me?
Yes.
Everybody following?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an example of what this sort of customer persona is for me, right? What age, what's their marital status, what kind of occupation do they have, what location do they stay, what income, right? Do they have? So essentially, ChatGPT is connected to BLS. Anybody familiar with BLS? So these are like this is the statistical, database that has all this information. And so because of that, when you ask ChatGPT, it actually goes to BLS and pulls down all that information for you and serves it to you and gives you some, some details on it. So you have the persona. You had a question?
Yes, I'm looking at your screen.
Yep.
And I'm trying to align what you said with your screen.
Yep.
So you're saying that I don't go into chat to get this, I go into various places to get this and then develop this or something like this?
Excellent.
So that I can have the conversation with the customer?
Yes. So excellent. So you could do that. You could do all of that even on ChatGPT.
Yes.
Right.
By person?
Yes.
By name?
Oh, not by name or by person.
By
You're just
client base.
yes. So you identify the typical customer that you're
Okay.
thinking you're expecting, and then you put it on ChatGPT and say, hey, can you use BLS, or can you just generate, a persona, with location, marital status, they're this, for this specific customer segment that I select.
I have one more question before we go any further.
Yep.
One of the things you said about, is it Canva? I get it mixed up. Is it Canvas or Canva?
Canva.
Canva.
Yeah.
There is a chat version whereby I don't have to go on that, and I'm asking, I believe so. There is a chat version where I can go in, put what I did, and create a template for this
Yeah. Yeah.
without going on.
Without going on. Yeah. Yeah.
So would you tell me what that is?
So you could actually use ChatGPT for that. So the way it works is ChatGPT has a plugin,
Right,
but you need to have the $20 plugin,
right.
and then you basically use Canva within ChatGPT so that you can ask it the question.
So is it built in, or do I tell it to go to?
It's built in. So once you select the plugin, it would show up on the left side.
Yes.
You click that, and then you can ask it any question.
So that's the paid
Yeah.
version of ChatGPT.
Yes, that's the paid version of ChatGPT.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
I use it every day.
Yeah, it's $20. So, yeah. Everybody with me?
Yes.
So, needs, pain points, ideal experience, everything you can get that from there. So, also value proposition, right? You want to identify what your customer journey is. You want to identify what your value proposition Canva is and all that stuff. You can get all of this with AI. I didn't want to go into too much details with this, but if you want to use a very, very great tool, use Market Muse. Market Muse. And so what this value proposition piece is you have, you now understand the pain and the need of your customer. You can actually start trying to use these tools to basically create what that customer journey would look like. And Market Muse would help you to be able to do that.
News, like the news.
Muse.
Oh, news.
M-U-S-E.
Oh, okay, I've heard
Market music.
Oh, yeah, I've heard market. Okay.
Also, I have this up for user persona generation. So it's userpersona.dev, I believe is what it is. You enter a prompt, and it basically gives you a free user persona for your product or service. So that was something you were referring to earlier. You could use userpersona.dev also.
User, I'm not.
I think it's
your
user
voice
persona.
drops, we're not getting it back here.
User persona.
User persona.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe it's my outer.
No, it might be my voice. Trust me. It might just be my voice. Trust me. So, basically you've identified the persona, you have tested the waters, right? Meaning you've gone on Instagram, you've invested $20 or $30 in seeing if there's actually a true opportunity there. And you see that, wow, like this is a beautiful opportunity. I need to take advantage of it and things of that nature. You could do some more market research, right? Or understand some additional sales channels that you could, potentially look into. And then once you're done, with that, you understand that one thing that you want to start doing is, and we do this a lot in my wife's business, essentially you get those customers, you want those customers to be giving you feedback, you want those customers to bring you referral. So there's two things you need to take note of with regards to, customers and customer relation. What you want to happen is you want a network effect, and you want virality. And I'll explain what that means. The CRM tool that you should use is HubSpot. I already mentioned that earlier, so you could just use that. That's a good tool for customer relationship management as well. So I said network effect and what? Network effect and what? Virality. What does network effect mean? If you think about LinkedIn has a bunch of people, right? And all these different people are connected to other people, and they're connected to other people, and they're connected to other people. I realized that as you click the link, you can tell, how many stages or steps you are to the next person. I've literally tested this out where I connect to the next person and ask the next person to connect me. So to every conversation you have, you need to have what I call like your action item. Like you have to have like basically, we're done with this conversation. What's next? What are the next steps? So because of that, you need to have like how much whatever it is that you're selling will cost, all that good stuff, right? And this tool, HubSpot, all that helps you to be able to manage that process. In fact, I have other tools that are not necessarily AI-driven tools that help me to track the sales process. Right. So this was the initial call. Then this was the follow-up call. And I want to also track the sales cycle. Everybody following me? So I landed this customer. It took me 2 days to land this customer. So I know that like every single customer we have to get would take us a fraction of 5 to 10 days, something like that. And so once I understand that, then I can get a sales team plugged into that so that I can keep the customers coming, positioning them with training. Does that make sense? So let's talk about some of the key activities. This is where the marketing piece comes in. And I cannot overemphasize this, use ChatGPT. One key activity that needs to happen is, rather than brainstorming yourself, conduct brainstorming with your team, so that they also get used to it. In fact, I would say train your team to use ChatGPT. I think there's a team account now where you can actually, have your teams, basically share the same account, and use the tool. Everybody still with me? Then map out your processes, because once you map out those processes, then you can actually work with an AI company, and you can reach out to me. We do this a lot with other companies as well, to automate your processes. So it's, essentially each of those pieces we can say, okay, would automation be able to take care of this piece? So you can save some money. Then I say, benchmark your activities against industry best standards. So I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and she was talking about releasing a movie, and so I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. I'll just need to understand what your process is, so that we can figure out how we can help reduce the cost on certain things. And then she was like, oh, we always had to, hire someone to do, the color balancing and all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, AI can do all of that now. And so you don't have to hire anybody to do it. We can color balance and you wouldn't even know. We can even produce photorealistic images right now, and you would not even be able to tell, the difference. I could take, Asian picture and turn it into a brand new picture in minutes, in seconds, so you wouldn't even know, anything was done to it. So understand your business processes and start figuring out how you can automate it. I was in my brother's store, and I was telling him, hey, look, if you had 2 cameras right in front of the entry point, you can track the traffic flow into your store. And what would that do? You can start to have some type of ballpark estimates. People come in more on Tuesday than they come in more on Wednesday. Then if you also tracked what was in the aisles, you can actually track what people are actually buying the most. And you want to position what people are buying the most in front, so that by the time they walk in, convenience, they pick what they want, they are out. So there are ways that AI can actually help you efficiently manage your process, but you need to identify what that is, and then we could discuss how that could happen. And I always tell people, when you talk to people, what do? You sell the problem. I don't sell the solution, I sell the problem. This is what will happen to your business if you don't do this. Are you guys getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
You waste X $1,000 on blah, 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 blah today. What you do now would help save you this. Do you want it or don't you want it? It's just, make sense?
Yes.
I always tell people, it's either you want it or you don't. If you don't, it's fine. So, but sell the problem. Where's my charger? Can someone grab my charger? I don't want to lose. So, everybody following me thus far? Yeah. So I'm going to start going into some key resources that you could use today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So everybody's talking about marketing and challenges with marketing. Now, let me help you solve that problem. These are 4 questions you need to ask before you start any marketing campaign. And it doesn't matter what you're selling, you need to ask yourself the following question. First question is, what are you selling? What are you selling? What are the key features and benefits of what you're selling? What's your target audience? What's your unique selling proposition? What makes you stand out? We had that conversation earlier. What problem are you solving? The second thing you need to ask yourself is, where are you selling? I realized that for our cooking classes, for my wife's cooking classes, we sell more at specific areas. And so I pump a lot of money into it. And I see like 250% in ROI just from there. Why? Because I'm not spending my time, all over the place. Okay? So we invest a lot in Google ads or Google SEOs and stuff like that, Google ads specifically. I've not had to touch the Google ads for the past 4 years. I've not had to touch it. And that brings us at least 350% ROI. Why? Because I understand where I'm selling. I do. So next question after that is, for how much are you selling, right? If you're selling something that is that costs $1,500 to people who can only afford between $50 to $100, then you don't add up, right? Then the next question is, how are you selling? And for that, if I were you, I would set KPIs to basically monitor that. I'm spending $50, this is what I'm going to get in return. And a good tool to do that is called Buster.so. 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 .so, not .com.
.so.
Yeah. So let's discuss certain key resources that you need to be able to get your work done. One, I put Gamma. Gamma is good for PowerPoint presentations. It would do PowerPoint presentations for you in an hour. You'll be done.
Y'all don't understand.
Hijin is another powerful tool. Like, this tool is extremely powerful. This tool you just need to record yourself for a few minutes, and this tool can create content on your behalf, which means that it would no longer be you, it would now be the AI with your face and all your expressions and everything.
It is.
Yes. And you know what makes it further interesting? If you're trying to sell to multiple markets, it will change your voice to Japanese, Chinese, so you just can sell all over the world.
How much does that cost?
Well, it's like $30-40-ish. It's not expensive at all. Yeah. I don't know what it costs. I don't know what it costs today because I'm not really
Yeah,
tracking
it's not
that.
like $300.
But it's not like
Yeah.
$500. No.
Right. Okay.
So Hijin. Now, if there are some people that might be like, oh, I don't even know how to engineer prompt. Well, I got you covered. AI RPM has a lot of prompts that you can play around with and test, prompts by industries. So AI RPM. So you might be here, you don't even have a website, you don't even know how you're gonna start. Well, I got you covered too. Durable will help you set up your website in 5 minutes. The content of this website can be generated from ChatGPT. The content for the website that gets generated can be generated from ChatGPT. You can get your domain registration done with Namecheap because you can do it at $2, $3, right? And then you could just connect the two together very easily. Once you have your website set up, you need to optimize your website, so you need to make it SEO compliant. To do that, you can use tools like Google Keywords and Google Trends.
Google keywords.
Yeah, Google Keywords and Google Trends. So Google Keywords tells you what people are mostly searching for within that specific space.
Okay.
Google Trends tells you how those keywords are trending over a period of time. And so, for example, I had a customer who was trying to, who does a lot of like cleaning products. And so we figured out that for boat cleaning, for example, it gets more sales in the summer than, in January. And so rather than having to spend all that money in January expecting a sale, we wait till summer and then we pick things up then. So durable.io, really good for helping you set up your website. For SEO optimization, SEMrush it's like $149, but it's really, really helpful for two reasons. It's helpful because you can actually see what your competition is doing, the keywords that they're using, their website, all that stuff. But it's extremely useful because then you can, basically match your competition. And then there's another good tool called Why Trend. Why Trend. Why Trend is also, it helps you track, the exact same thing, what your competition is doing, but what your competition is doing on Instagram, what your competition is doing on, the social media platforms. So I figured there are a couple of people that might be here that might, want to build their personal brand. Here are a few tools. You could take a picture of it that could help you build your personal brand. The one that I would basically, single out, for someone who is maybe looking to find a job and stuff like that. Careerflow.ai is really good, for jobs. Let's say you want to make your picture look really pretty on LinkedIn, and profile pic maker is there, and stuff like that. You want to prepare for interviews, there's interview warm-up, and things of that nature. So there are various ways you can boost your company sales, but you see the first step is to start with what I just mentioned, right? Put out posts, see how you get the engagement, go back and make adjustments to it. I'm the type of person that I think that you only learn by doing. And so when you push out posts, you see what engagement you're getting, you can actually start to what? Make adjustments, optimize, and things of that nature. I'll tell you one good way to start, getting engagement on social media. Use Reddit. Yes. Reddit is a place where people go in and they put questions that bother them about specific industries. Take those questions and answer it on your social media platform, because there are probably 1,000 other people that are asking the same question, and you start driving engagement. Everybody following me? So those are little ways that you can actually optimize your work. So also, this is also good for creating content as well, right? Let's say you wanted to create a blog, right? You want to create a blog on things that people are actually interested in. So go to Reddit, type in your industry, it will give you some questions that people are asking. Take those questions and use them to create what? A blog post. Take those questions and use that to do a recording, a video recording on the answer to that question. If you don't have the time, use AI to basically answer the question by basically putting in text, and then it does the video piece for you, and you have the content. Everybody following? Other tools would be Quora, Google Search, Buzzmo, but I would say don't even start with all of those. Focus on Reddit. Get questions from Reddit. So you're talking about helping longevity, right? Go on Reddit and say, questions around longevity or health. And it would start to pull those questions out that people are asking today. Create content around those. Some other tools that I use are like Mojo app. I use it for a lot of video editing. So for example, we do a lot of videos with our cooking classes, lots and lots of videos. And the challenge is someone has to sit down and edit those content. What Mojo does is it will cut those content up for you and find the really good, most amazing pieces of that content, and it will split it into different posts. So now you can have, from a 5 minutes video, you can have like 10 or 20 various pieces of content.
No, you're upsetting me because you're my lane.
Yeah.
So you said AI is taking our business here. So this is, we're always asking Dr. Iyanu content. It's a beast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're trying to always come up with content, come up with ideas. So this is amazing.
Yeah.
Giving us not only ideas, but then how to implement.
How to,
them.
yeah, exactly.
And still be able to sleep at night, because you can't be on social media all the time.
Exactly.
You don't want to be doing this 24 hours a day.
Exactly. So things like Unsplash give you free images, right? Canva Unsplash is not even on there. UNSPLASH. And tools like Canva gives you videos.
Can you spell that again?
UNSPLASH.
Thank you.
Unsplash.
Unsplash.
With Canva. But
No,
it's-
that's separate. It's its own thing. So you could use on Splash. So essentially, you could do this. You could have. Oh, I remember something else. Okay, so you could have, for example, 11 Labs. 11 Labs, another tool, produce your audio. You could have Canva video do, the video portion of what it is that you're trying to promote. But what you could actually do is use the Canva videos and position them to be able to share your own content while you use 11 Labs as your recording, like the overlay of that video recording. And all you're doing is sharing content, right? But you're using the video to illustrate that content, right? And it's doing, what do you call it? To put the text on the content for you. And all you're just doing is recording and you're still sharing the video content. Everybody following what I'm saying? So these are various ways that you can create various contents. You can literally spend, 3 days creating your content and have that content for months. I got some content ideas for you. So you could say, well, today I'm going to do a single image. Tomorrow I'm going to do a reel. Wednesday I'm going to do carousel. Thursday I'm going to do a reel. Friday I'm going to do, you get what I'm saying? You could sequence it out and then just, basically organize it or give it to your content organizer, and it just takes them a couple minutes to do.
I'm sorry, could you go back? What is carousel?
So the idea behind carousels, like you have like 5 pictures or 5, let's say for example, you wanted to say 10 steps to do AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have 10 separate images of what you're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're posting it on Instagram, you post them in that order. So it's like, it's like 1, 2, and it gives them so essentially what it does is they do the first and they're like, oh wow, I need to continue to the next and I need to continue to the next. And what that does is it helps them with engagement. It helps Instagram to see that people are getting engaged with your content and actually helps them to expose your content to more people. Everybody following?
Yes.
The incentive for Instagram to push your post is that it's engaging. So the goal is to get your post as engaging as it could possibly get, because if it is, then it's going to be shared with more people. And that's the reason why I said you have to work with someone who is really creative, who can help you with that creative process initially. And then once you get that all figured out, then you have a template that you can just continue to use over time.
Template is my favorite word.
So for key partners, I spoke about this already. You can use seamless AI to communicate with your key partners. You can use propensity to actually drill down to your ideal partners. With seamless AI, you can search and then it gives you the content. But with propensity, you can actually basically search based on intent. So it's more targeted. And then to determine your cost structure for your business, of course, you could use ChatGPT. You could say, oh, you know what, like, I would love to break down my expenses into 30%. My, my profits, will go to all my. I want to break down not my expenses into 20%, but let's say, for example, my expenses, which is 100% of my ballpark, I want to break it down into all of these different things. How would you structure it? How will you make it more efficient? ChatGPT would take all of that, and help create that for you. So for example, in my business, I could say like, I want to spend, 10% of our sales on the month for the month on marketing for the next month. I guess following what I'm saying? And I want to increase that by 20%, over time. How much would that put us by the end of the year? right? And so you can start doing like projections and things of that nature. All of that you can put it into ChatGPT. Why? Because now ChatGPT is able to understand figures. So it's able to analyze figures. Before it wasn't able to. So now it can actually do math and give you some of that response. And so now you can figure out, okay, where are the issues that I have and how do I improve this piece? You can go back and say, okay, what AI tool can I use to increase, to do this piece? And you can use a tool like future.ai to search for a tool that might be able to do what it is that you're looking for. So I put here formula bot. And some of you probably want to work with Excel and you are having a difficult time. So let's just say, for example, Excel is difficult for you to do. Use formula bot. You can import the Excel spreadsheet into formula bot and ask it any question. You can even tell it to clean out your spreadsheet. You say, please, I don't want blank spaces, remove it, and it will do it. Yes. You can say, here's the analysis of my expenses, break it down into whatever, it will do it. Yes. 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 So I'm going to end with this. I think it was the CEO of OpenAI that said that in our lifetime, they would have these private conversations around, there's going to be a time when a single person-owned business would be $1 billion business. And he finally thinks that in our lifetime, we're actually going to see that happen. You know why? Because every single thing that you need to do, you don't have to get it done outside anymore because AI can do it for you. And so you can have an entire operation run by one person and it would hit a $1 billion evaluation simply because you leveraged AI tools to be able to make it happen. So what you want to do is now go back to the issues that you have in your business right now, review that. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, but review the issues that you know, and start asking yourself, which of these tools can help to make it happen? Which of these tools can help resolve those issues? So for those that say marketing, then you need to go on ChatGPT and start playing around with it, asking like, okay, this is my idea, spit out X marketing suggestions. As a matter of fact, what I do? I'll tell you guys what I do. I'll first tell ChatGPT, give me metrics to be able to assess, these plans first. And then I would say, use these metrics and spit out 10 ideas and use these metrics to measure which of these ideas will do well. And so ChatGPT will say, for accuracy of the whatever, 8/10 for this. And then you can actually see which of the metrics that ChatGPT actually gave you is most useful. Yeah.
Dr. Iyanu, my question is this. There are a lot of companies in the area, since we're right in the DMV, that are trying to get government contracts, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to get local and
Yeah.
national, federal contracts. Can you give us a little bit of, because we're going to ask you to do this at another time, to just do a whole thing on how we can use AI, but can you give us a little tickler of how we could use AI to get into government contracting?
Yeah, I can. So, one of the biggest things with government contracting is not so much about the work, I found. It's so much about being able to follow the instructions. And so I think it's really critical to basically understand how the work that you submit is measured, the criteria that is measured by. And it's really critical that you write to solve based on those criteria. And, the best way to do it is to make sure that whatever is written ties to the agency's mission, and to ensure that you have frameworks, for example, agile, it really depends if you're doing technology type of work. But ensure that the frameworks that you're using, aligns with that organization's mission. It's also very critical that when you're responding, you tell a story. I observe a lot of people just like to write a response, but you want to tell a story, and the way that you tell a story is basically using, the way that I put it is, if you walk into a place and you understand their problems, and then you speak, you're going to be different from someone who walks into the place without understanding of their problems. So we know these are the current systems that you use today. We know that they are inefficient, and they're not able to, I wouldn't say it that way, but, they're not able to do X, Y, and Z. Here's how we're changing that, and do that in such a way that, they see that they're actually going to get tremendous value going with you as opposed to going with another solution, because you have an understanding of what's going on ground. Now, once you've done that, some of these tools are really helpful in that, helping you to do the messaging. And so that's where you want to say, okay, what are the current gaps, and identify those. How would you rewrite this, and you would typically need a human in the loop for such, because it's, talking to people, going back to, reframe the way that you're addressing the problem and things of that nature. And I wouldn't go for anything if I don't understand the agency and if I haven't spoken to someone within the agency. So because they give me context, they give me history, and those are the things that you want to put in that helps them say, boom, I want to go with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for this information. So, I also create newsletters.
Okay.
For one that goes on my website, and I have used ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I've also used Canva. So when I use Canva to do the newsletter and I send it out, what I've gotten some feedback on when I send it out through social media is that they wish it was like as a digital, to put it in a digital form. And so I looked all through Canva to try to figure out what they're talking about. And they were saying that there's like some newsletters, like as soon as you plug it in, you can just press it, it comes up. You don't have to, sign in or do anything like that. So I'm trying to figure out the most efficient way. And what does that mean to get a digital form of a newsletter?
So that question is a little tricky, right? Because I don't really know specifically what it is that they're asking, right? But there are ways that there are digital tools out there. There's one, I'm not sure if it's called Samcart or something. But the way it works is, essentially, it serves them the content, immediately if it's free, as opposed to them having to sign up. So maybe what's happened is people have had to log into your portal. Is that what's happening? Do they have to log into your portal?
That's the thing. They don't. You just have to click the link.
Uh-huh.
But some people click the link, it pops right up, they see it. and then it's fine, but then I've had a couple of people who said, I clicked the link and it takes me all these different places.
Oh, I see. So what you should do, I know what you're talking about now. What you should do is send it to their email. Are you sending it to their email?
No.
Okay. So what you should do is send it directly to their email. So basically you have this subscription form. They enter the information, they hit send, it sends to their email. And then in their email, they're able to either see it directly through like a MailChimp, or they're able to click it and download to their system and have access to it.
Okay, thank you.
Question? Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny, but is there a book called AI for the Dummies? I just happened to stumble into AI because I was trying to track down this financial advisor, and I didn't feel real comfortable about him, and just happened to be on a page where Copilot was, and Copilot heard me.
Yep.
And so it told me things, and then I was able to, and, even though it did not say, oh, he's great, or, oh, he's terrible, excuse me, some of the things that came up, this person was using people as, part of his company who were not, like it would be like Granite Creek, and the other one would say Granite Rock. Something like that, it's like, wait a minute, these people, and it's just, they were doing financial, but they weren't doing, retirement plans.
Yep.
And I was just totally intrigued. So, actually, the other part of my question is that I don't want to see people go through and I was fortunate enough that I was able to get out of this advisor before I signed off my papers. And I know when I went to the initial presentation, there were 27 Caucasians and 2 African Americans. I said, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear horror stories about, I dipped into my 401k, but I didn't know that I was going to pay all these taxes and things like that. And so that has inspired me to want to, do some type of presentation or whatever, something online where people can ask questions. And, but I'm the one that knows nothing, but I believe that I could probably gather the information to share.
Yeah. So you.
Where do I start?
Okay. As simple as this might sound, and you guys might already be tired of me saying it at this point. Yes. Use ChatGPT.
Actually, that makes me.
You know why? You know why? I said this several times in the class that I think Allegra was in that class, but I said this several times, and the reason why I said that was you can actually hold conversations with ChatGPT. It's really, really powerful. You might just miss what I just said. Like, you can actually hold conversations, which means if you didn't get it right, you could get clarifications. So like, I'm into like a lot of the deep AI stuff, and sometimes understanding the mathematical pieces of this work could be sometimes really, really complex. But I actually go to ChatGPT and say, hey, look, and this thing would help me create new formulas and, help me be more creative. So use ChatGPT, that's number one. Number two, there is a really nice book on AI marketing that is out there. I think it's actually called AI Marketing. I could send it to Allegra. She could get it sent to everybody. So that's a really good tool. There's also a book that is called ChatGPT for Millionaires, I think is what it's called. ChatGPT for Millionaires.
Okay.
So it teaches you how to engineer prompts and things of that nature.
I want to say something. If
Yeah.
I can use ChatGPT for what I need to do for my business, anybody can.
Yes, exactly.
Trust me when I say that.
Yeah.
Are you
It is
using
that
the-
wonderful and that easy.
Yes,
Are you
exactly.
using the free or the paid?
Oh, no, I use it every day.
Okay, so
For
paid,
something.
okay.
$20 a month.
Yeah,
It's worth it.
it's worth it.
I've been using free, so I think paid will help.
Are there any other questions before we close down? Any questions? Sir, you've been quiet. You just soaking it up? Yeah. Is this the gentleman you were talking about?
Curious about AI tokens. Do you think it's worth to do that?
So-
For all the different apps and things?
So if you want to build a tool that uses AI, so like for example, I've had, for example, a pastor reached out to me and said, hey, look, I want to preach, I want to speak on Sunday, and by the time I'm done, before I get to my chair, I want to have a book about my sermon. And I said, yeah, we could get it done. And so, basically you speak, it would convert the audio into, so to be able to do that kind of a thing, you need like APIs, to gain access to the back end so you can actually do everything else. So if you're a business and you want to basically use ChatGPT to build your own tools, you can, and the way to do that is through APIs and things of that nature. However, be careful with regards to investments, also there use of the word token sometimes. Be careful about investing into anything crypto and AI. The risks are a little high there. But if you want to use a token to build tools, then you have to hire a developer who understands how to engineer the prompt so that, essentially whatever you want that is that repeatable task, the engineer can program it in such a way that you can use it. Yeah, so that'll be the approach.
Last question, anyone?
Oh, you do podcasts, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Zencaster.
Zencaster?
Yes, Zencastr. And Zencaster, Zencastr. And what Zencaster allows you to do is you could do all your recordings. I need to do post-production for you.
Oh, that's good.
So, thank you, Dr. Iyanu.